All right, peace family, and we are now live. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have a great show tonight, an important show tonight. Got a brother here that's well-spoken brother. Came on the scene this year and just completely, oh man, did an amazing job on the channel. So I definitely want to give the brother this platform tonight to set the record straight for his organization and clear up a lot of misconceptions that even I may have about his organization. So get comfortable, family. Get your snacks, whatever you got to do. Tell your friends and family we are
Yeah.
live. Let me get to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. All right, be right back, family. This is a gather. 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 This is a gather of the masses. This is a gather. 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 This is a gather of the masses. This is a gather. 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 This is a gather of the masses. Real quick, for those who are interested, the Gathering of the Masses is now available on my Patreon, patreon.com/blackmagic363. Spiritual Conference of the Year. The brother Sharif was there. So many people were there. Make sure you get it, family. Go on to Patreon. Check it out. So many great speakers there. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome back to the platform. Like I said, an important show. My brother Sharif Bey. Welcome back, brother.
Yes, sir. Peace to the brother. Peace to the audience.
Indeed.
Islam to everyone. Islam just means peace, people, right?
Indeed.
I want to say there's a lot I want to say to preface this conversation because that's what it's going to be. It's a presentation, but it's also a conversation.
Yes.
Right. First things first.
Yes.
We're all family. This is not going to be an easy conversation. It's just not. Okay. But I need to get that out front right off top. But we're family. And family can have the hard conversations just like we can have the feel-good ones. You see what I'm saying? This is very important, all right? So what I want to do before we get into the presentations and get into the questions from our host, the esteemed Brother Rich, is I really want to challenge all of the viewers to do and try to maintain a few things in here and in here throughout this conversation. And what that is, I want to challenge you to question your own beliefs, to find the courage to question what you believe or what you say you believe. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good thing. All right? Because we're not all, listen, all of us can't be right. Follow what I'm about to say. All of us can't be right if we don't agree with each other. All of us can't be right, but guess what? We all can be wrong, though. See? So I would like for you all to have the most open mind as you're capable of. All right? The most open mind. And I want you to guard against a couple things. Guard against confirmation bias. Ease. Okay? Let me explain confirmation bias for everyone. I don't want to presume people don't know what it is, but I want to be thorough. This is an example of confirmation bias. I think the planet Earth is in the shape of a triangle. That's my belief. So what I do now when I research, I have to put that in quotes, when I research, confirmation bias would be I only look for things that agree with my belief. Mm-hmm. And then I get emotional and fight the things that may not agree with what I believe. That's called anti-scholarship, people. Understand? That's called anti-scholarship. This is important, okay? Very important. So please guard against confirmation bias, which is why I said have the courage to challenge your beliefs. Okay? Because they're going to get challenged today on these issues related to the Moorish movement. Guaranteed. All right. I want you to remember this, because it's going to come up a lot. The word context.
Mm-hmm.
Context is king.
Yes, sir. Very, yes.
Sadly, for many of us, and I don't mean just our people, just people in general, sadly, context for most is a moving target. I'll give you all a quick example, right? In the Moorish Science Temple of America and the leadership under the founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he says that our nationality is Moorish American. Follow me, right? Someone would say, and they have said, oh, you don't put ish on the end because ish means somewhat like or sort of like. That's one of the uses and definitions of the suffix ish. One of them, not all of them. So what do you have to do in your judgment? You have to find the definition that fits the context of the use of the word. You have to find the definition that fits the context of the use of the word. Hold on. Pardon me, people.
No problem.
My phone is going crazy. All right. That's what you have to find.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? You have to find the context. So is there another context for ISH? Of course there is. Of course there is. ISH also means of the. So Moorish in that context would mean of the Moors. Just like Irish means of the inhabitants of Ireland. British means of Great Britain. Get it?
Indeed.
Nobody argues when you hear British. They say, oh, they're not really Brits because they said ISH. See my point?
Yeah. Right.
Context, people. Please keep that in mind. All right? All right. So now let's begin. Before we even pull up presentations, let's begin. Let's talk about the word movement.
And Sharif, before you even go there, let me just pull up what got a lot of people talking about the Moors. Something happened on the news recently that got the Moors in the headlines for people to start questioning who exactly are the Moors? What are they about? What are their mission again? So let me just hold on. Let me share this screen real quick. All right. So this is the headlines from Dallas. This is Fox 4 News in Dallas. Yes. Dallas police shooting suspect. Here's what we know about Corey Cobb Bay. I'm gonna scroll down because I'm not gonna spend too long. According to social media, Corey Cobb Bay identifies as a Moorish American national, a population that considers themselves to be sovereign and immune from U.S. laws. Dallas police say Cobb Bay made several concerning posts on social media. According to Dallas police, video show Cobb Bay approaching police officers and talking to them, questioning them at times about what they were doing and why they are in certain places. Dallas police say Cobb Bay had posted on social media that he was planning some kind of event. In 2017, Cobb was charged with intentionally providing false information to police. Police initially pulled him on for having expired registration. Police asked for his name. He told officers it was Cormore Bay. According to documents, when police asked for his birth date, Cobb allegedly replied, "That is private information. You can find everything you need with just my name." Cobb was later arrested for his traffic violation. A search of an FBI database connected officers to Cobb. And I guess we're ending, but this this guy right here, Corey Cobb Bay, he killed one officer, right?
He killed one, wounded two.
Okay. All right. So, all right. With that being said, we all heard about the Moorish movement. We've heard several things. We've heard things that contradict each other. It's just a lot when you get into the whole sovereignty aspect of things.
Let's talk about that, Brother Rich.
Yeah.
I would like, because I have to tell you, and I've said this before, I love how you give questions. Indeed. So I want to field some of your questions because, again, you're at the head of a huge community. You have your ear to them and to what's going on outside of it. So I would like for you to throw some questions at me before we get into the presentations.
Well,
like for instance, you mentioned the whole sovereignty thing, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this before,
Sure.
I guess, and I know you got a presentation, so I definitely want you to.
There's actually two presentations because, again, let me just say this really quick to the audience and to you, dear brother. I literally just got done teaching class, and then two, I'm working on maybe 9 hours of sleep in the past 3 days.
Wow. All right, so I'm gonna use let me just use an example.
Go ahead.
The Bloods, a gang. The Bloods, the gang, Bloods and Crips. Let's say the Bloods.
Yes.
There's different sets.
Yes.
So a person might say, I'm a part of Non-Trey. I'm a part of Billy Badass.
I'm a part of Sex Money Murder.
Sex Money Murder. Yeah. All those sets.
That's which is old school.
Yeah. So how many Morris sets are there? Because, we hear about the Morris this or the Morris that. I heard about the rise of the Moors in the news a couple of years ago. Then I hear about this. How many sets of the Moors are there in this country, my brother, who say they're sovereign to this country?
Okay. Well, let's start with this. And we're going to definitely return to it because this is going to make things a little, a little tippy, right? And I have to speak from this perspective. I have to be
and I'm not trying to compare Moors to a gang. I just
no. I know, brother. I know, but it's a great analogy, and we're going to get back to it. It really is a great analogy.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. First and foremost, and I don't care what anybody says, and I mean that respectfully. The Moorish movement in America began with Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Was he the first to know he was Moor? Absolutely not. We don't say that he started the moniker Moorish American. The moniker Moorish American was around before he was. The big difference is that no one told our people that that's ours. All right. Second, the movement that he began in his idea and his direction has nothing to do with sovereignty. Nothing. Has nothing to do with sovereignty, brother.
So you're telling me Noble Drew Ali's movement has nothing to do with sovereignty? That's what you're telling me.
Actual fact, brother.
Okay.
Well, let me be very, 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 very clear. As clear as I can be. A lot of people in the Moorish movement or claim Moorish identity are familiar with Black's Law Dictionary.
Yes.
If you look up the definition, the sovereign people, in that dictionary, it's going to tell people who believe that the movement is aiming towards sovereignty, it's going to disappoint you. Because this is what it says. The sovereign people are the American constituency who exercise the sovereign power by way of the electoral process or the election process. So you know what that means, people? The sovereign power is civic power, voting. That's what it means. That's what it means. And that's according to Black's Law Dictionary. The sovereign people are the Americans. Why do we say that they're the sovereign people? They're the sovereign people because in the American system of government, the people rule by way of their elected representative. What we've grown up in is a horrible condition where this civic activity in our minds, we've been socialized to look at it in reverse. We end up looking at the elected officials as the bosses when it's the other way around. You see? It's the other way around. So if you're not telling your employees what to do and how to do it, and then you give them the impression that they're the bosses, what do you think they're going to do? And that's the condition we live in today. Look at the RNC and the DNC.
Right.
Bloods and Crips, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a big dog and pony show. But I want to throw this out there for everybody to consider. Who are they performing for? Both sides. Who are they performing for, people? Who did they have entertaining? Who did they have speaking? What did they look like? They still need us to keep that idea going.
Mm-hmm.
See? This is important, people. We're going to get back to it, though. But yeah, so what I said about the movement as organized, devised, implemented by Prophet Noble Drew Ali has nothing to do with sovereignty. Nothing. Oh, we're going to get into it even deeper, but I have to say that because that's laying the ground floor work.
And how many factions are there?
Okay, now that's a big question. All right, that's a big question. That's a multi-layered question. I'm going to tell you why. You from New York City?
Yeah.
You mentioned the whole gang thing. Remember?
Yeah.
All right. Remember 1994, 1995 in the Bronx? The feds used the RICO statute and they initiated an operation against the Bloods.
Right.
They called it Operation Red Bandana. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
They rounded up a whole lot of people. Do you know how they made their case? You ready?
Yeah.
MySpace.
Ooh.
How many of you are familiar with a RICO statute or you get hit with an 848 RICO? The crime isn't, hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, everything that harms, robbing, stealing, killing, selling drugs. That's not the crime. The crime is, and I have to put it in quotes, belonging to a criminal organization. And many of you already know, some of you have probably suffered from it already. They pin the organization on you from a phone call. You all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you getting rounded up and roped up on a federal conspiracy charge, and they got you on the tour bus. Some of you watching know exactly what I'm talking about because you may have been through it or you know somebody who has. So that's why I said this is a serious conversation because we are trying to save lives. And I mean that. Since that situation happened with our brother Cobb Bey, the individual Cobb Bey, I can't tell you how many random calls I fielded from people on the ground in Dallas, Texas, literally saying, we need help. The police. Basically, it's almost like a SOS, and we're going to get back to that too. SOS means shoot on sight. All right. And it's to the point of you got Bey on your name, or it's a problem. You better stay inside. But I want to take it a step further for everybody, for the listeners, because again, this is a serious conversation. Serious conversation. It's not the police that the brothers and sisters that carry the name Bey and Eel and wear fezzes and turbans in the Dallas-Fort Worth area have to really worry about. You know who they have to worry about? I'm telling you what I know because we're fielding these conversations. That's why I haven't slept in a number of days.
Mm-hmm.
That brother, the police officer that was killed, was loved by our people. Loved him. He was a retired educator. He retired from teaching to join the police force to help protect his community.
Yeah.
They love him. You hear me? That's who the Beys and Eels in the DFW area have to worry about. You understand? So it's a gross misunderstanding of the movement that brings this type of stuff on. See? That's what it is, people. And this is not a judgment call or a character call on Brother Corey Cobb Bey. It's not at all. I don't know the brother. Never met the brother, but some of our people on the ground there did know him. Understand? So this is not a judgment call or a personal judgment on that brother. Just like I would never judge our dear sister Corinne Gaines, who met a similar fate for a very similar reason. I'm very passionate. You all have seen me on various shows with Brother Rich, and you see me passionate about what I present, but I'm smiling. Not today. Not today. Like I said, we're trying to save lives. You understand? And the people, I'm just going to call it out. We're going to call, like I said, we're going to have the hard conversation. We're family. So we're going to have the hard conversation. The very people that coached our dear sister Corinne Gaines. See, Corinne Gaines was a soldier in this respect. I'm going to tell you why. Because she moved out on bad information. And she did what the people who coached her would never do. Understand? She moved out on it and got murdered in front of her own son in her own home. You think those people that coached her came to her aid or assistance in any shape, form, or fashion? You know what they did? They got online and talked about all the things they said they thought she did wrong.
Wow.
They passenger side coached her. Understand? They turned her into a crash test dummy. I got a son and daughter with the name Bey, people. We are not playing with this thing. So for everybody, I want to say this, and I want to frame this, my name is Brother Sharif Bey. I am the Grand Sheik of branch symbol number 11 of the Moorish Science Temple of America, incorporated under the leadership of Brother R. Jones Bey. That's my leader. And his assistant, Brother A. Hopkins Bey. I also serve as the National Press Secretary for the organization, nationally. So these issues I have to be first responder to on behalf of the organization. That's why I haven't slept in a few days. All right. Now, to answer your question, to put the period on that question, brother, it all depends on who's counting. Because many of these so-called Moorish groups only exist on social media as a group. Let me repeat that. Many of these Moorish groups only exist on social media as a group on social media. Now, follow me. If you got people in law enforcement, in the justice system, in the legal system, in the intelligence community, that really want to get at our people or get at the organization, they will exploit the misunderstanding. You understand? Even though they full well know better. They know the distinctions. Get it? And they'll exploit it to their advantage. What do you think COINTELPRO was about? See? What was COINTELPRO about? The very same thing. Yeah, we know y'all are good people at heart, or you may be sincere. You just have a misunderstanding. We're gonna weaponize your misunderstanding, and then we're gonna blanket. We're gonna blanket accuse the whole movement and the whole organization. See? This is crazy. This is what we're dealing with, brother. So it all depends on who's asking. So I'll say this. There are a number of different groups. Okay? And they come and go. They pop up, disappear, pop up, disappear. A lot of them are loosely organized. Understand? They're not really true organizations in that sense, despite what law enforcement says. Did that help, brother?
Yeah. So What's the gentleman name we was just talking about? Corey Kabe? Is that
Corey Kabe.
did he move on bad information according to?
You want the short answer?
Yeah,
absolutely. Remember how we started? We said that the Moorish movement, as designed and implemented by the founder, has nothing to do with sovereignty. And I'm going to prove it to you all. And so here's the thing. I'm not going to say that you're wrong, even if I personally believe you're wrong about the whole sovereign thing. I'm just saying it's not what Prophet Noble Drew Ali put forth. That's what I'm saying. You get it? You understand? And respectfully, it's just like Denzel Washington said when he was playing Frank Lucas. Call it what you like, just don't call it blue magic.
Right. Where did this whole idea of, and I don't know if this falls under the sovereignty thing, but the idea of you could cash in your birth certificate.
That's called the redemption.
It's
a spin-off of the sovereign citizen movement. Let me say this. Mm-hmm. The sovereign citizen movement, and law enforcement knows this very well. They know what I'm about to tell you. They've known it for decades. Do you know what law enforcement, they're puzzled to a degree when you hear sovereign citizen and they see a face like us with a fez or a turban on. They're kind of puzzled. You know why they're puzzled? Because they've been tracking sovereign citizen groups since the 70s. And you know what they all were? You ready?
White dudes.
Straight like that. And not just that, radical right-wing Christian identity Europeans.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
That's what they were. So that was the face of the sovereign citizen movement until around 95, early 2000. Uh-huh. That's why law enforcement and the courts are kind of going, what gives? What y'all doing? See?
So these radical groups, they're the one that came up with the whole idea of the UCC code? Is that?
Let me tell you what, brother, let me tell you why, though. See, here's the other part, too.
Yeah.
It's not so much, you all have heard me say this before, the secret is always narrative. And remember I said this on your show before, narrative is the psychic and the social algorithm. It determines the parameters of how you think.
Yeah.
Now you see why I said what I said in the very beginning. Have the guts to challenge your preconceived beliefs. Uh-huh. Because what I'm going to present for many of you is outside of your narrative or outside of the narrative that was given to you.
Man, I want to see this presentation, Sharif. I'm ready for it. If you're ready, I'm ready. I'm ready for it, my brother.
All right, I gave you two of them, and again, remember, because I've been running crazy, bro.
Yeah,
so I did, but praise the law. Fortunate for me and my colleagues, we already did the work years ago.
Yeah,
I've been doing this, and I've been speaking on this since easily 2015.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been speaking on this since 2015. Mm-hmm. Okay. So why? Let me say this real quick. This is why. Because I used to think like that. And we were thinking like this in the summer of 1991. There was no social media. There was no organizing on social media. There was no Facebook, MySpace. You had to be outside in front of judges, in front of police. Understand? This is real. I was part of the group of people that were listen to what I'm about to say, that were working to connect Moorish American identity with sovereign citizen tactics. You all hear me? I was one of those people working to connect the two because I had the misunderstanding. And then I sought out ideals, tactics, and principles that matched my misunderstanding. See? There was a judge in Syracuse, New York. His name was Langston McKinney. He passed away. May he rest in peace. Beautiful brother. At a particular point, because we've been in front of his courts too. We shut his court down a couple times. At a particular point, when I learned better and then did better, he and I had a conversation. He said, brother, I'm so happy you're not doing the crazy stuff you were doing. I said, man, whatever, man. You know, ain't scared of these dudes. This is what he said. He said, no, you don't get it. I'm not talking about some courtroom shenanigans. There's a contingency of police and sheriffs that want you dead. Straight like that. Like I said, we're here to save lives, people. What I'm doing right now is penance work. So yeah, I am the National Press Secretary of the Moorish Science Civil of America Incorporated, and this is my job in my capacity in that office, but it's also personal for me. Okay? And respectfully, and I mean that as a brother to you. Okay? I'm outside. Any of us at any given time, we can have the conversation. I'm accessible. Okay? This is important for me to say. And I mean that as a brother. And I mean that in love. Want to have the conversation, we can have the conversation. I'm not hiding. All right? This is very important because we're talking about saving lives. Because it's getting there. Y'all watch the news. Y'all see it. The number one domestic issue, social issue, socio-political issue in America is what, people? Race. Number one issue. That should tell you something. The number one international issue is the end of global European imperialism. Understand, people? This thing is getting real. And we're watching it happen right in front of our eyes. Okay? And it's a war happening here. I need everybody to pay close attention. It's a war happening here. Or it has physical implications because here is in this. But it's a war for the minds, the control of the minds of people. And there's a reason why our people are getting targeted. And let's not look at it from the antiquated and the irresponsible. And I'm just going to say, it's an irresponsible perspective to say, oh, white people just hate black people and they're just targeting us because they hate us. Nah. No. It's much more nuanced than that. It's much more nuanced than that. Okay? But without certain key missing pieces of information that paints the proper narrative, you're disconnected. You can never put your finger on the pulse of the issue. And you will ever, forever be passive and not active. What do I mean? Our brother Cobb Bey is killed. And we were like, oh, we got to do something. We got to do something. That's reactive, people. And the powers that be have already, come on, people. The powers that be have already planned for your reaction. It's ready to go. They've already planned for that. So if you know anything about strategy, people, the proclivity when facing the adversary is to strive to not do what they expect you to do. You understand? And then what happens? Whatever happens after this, things will die down. And then guess what our people are doing? Back to our regularly scheduled programming until the next body drops. See? That is evidence that collectively, we don't have our finger on the pulse of the real problem. Does that make sense? Everybody there?
Yeah, we got.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, you understand? So I wanted to prep that so that hopefully your minds are open. Okay? Hopefully your minds are open. So now we're going to talk about what the Moorish Science Temple of America, founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, is really about. So there's a one of the slideshows I sent you. It's called the Moorish American Movement. You see it?
Moorish. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, pull that one up, brother.
Hold up. Let me make this bigger. Let me do that. Okay, it's how do I change the okay, I see now. Yeah, okay. All right. All right, it's ready to roll.
Let's go. So
just talk to the people real quick. Let me use the bathroom real quick, my brother. Talk to the people.
Go ahead,
real quick.
Do you think? This particular presentation, and again, some people they may be a little upset with me. Don't get upset with your brother. Let have patience with your brother. All right. And what I mean by getting upset is if you're looking at this slide, it says the Moorish American Movement, a workshop for city, county, and state government officials and personnel. Presented by My Branch Temple and the Citizens Review Board of the city of Syracuse. Yes, they asked our temple to present to city, county, and state government officials and do a presentation on what the Moorish American Movement is really about from the perspective of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's what this thing is about. Let me, while our brother's in the restroom, I'm going to pull up, let me go here and see where everybody is in the chat, in the live chat. There we go. So while we wait on our brother, I'll field 3 questions. I'm looking at the live chat right now.
All right, I'm back. All right.
Okay. All right. So here, let's who's it? Okay. All right. Well, let's just go because we'll do questions later. Yeah. Go ahead, brother. All right. So next slide. This is directly from Moorish literature, written and or approved by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. This is the mission statement of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember what you said about sovereignty, dear brother?
Yeah.
This is the actual mission statement. Doesn't that mission statement, especially point number 2, run directly contrary to the idea of sovereignty?
Right. Better citizens.
How about that?
Yeah.
What's a citizen? Some people would say, well, a citizen is a subject. Let's use some common sense, people. If you invite me into your home and you say, make yourself at home, does that mean I get to help myself to your wife?
It's not funny, but I get what you said.
You get my point?
Yes, sir.
It is okay. So, in your home, I am what? Sovereign or subject?
Subject.
Absolutely. Now, there can be no sovereign without subjects. Let me say that again. There's no such thing as a nation of sovereigns. Never has been. If there's who you sovereign over? See? What is the definition of a citizen? The real definition of a citizen. A citizen is a member of a political community. Understand? And this is where we start to run into problems with context being a moving target. So when we say, wait a minute, y'all are saying Moorish sign symbol of America and you're Moorish Americans. Well, wait a minute. America, there's 3 Americas. There's North America, South America, and Central America, and da-da-da-da-da, right? Okay, got it. Context, people. Context. The term America. Are we talking land or are we talking political community? Boom. See? That has to be determined first. Political community, or are we talking about domicile, where you are residing or domiciled? Because yes, Mexico is a United States. It is. Estados Unidos de Mexico. Yes, it's a United States. But when we say United States, again, context, people, what are we talking about? What is the context? Are we talking about states as in the family of nations? For instance, there's an organization called the Organization of American States. Is it talking about the 50 states of the Union? No. It's talking about all of the nations on American soil, from Canada down to Argentina. Context, people. See? Context. All right? It can't just be true in my mind, and then I can project that out there and make other people bend to what I want it to be. It's not what it is. Next slide, brother. Oh, go back real quick. Oh, no, stay there. Stay there. Stay there. I used to think that the Moorish sign symbol of America had 2 sides because they would say divine and national movement. So there's a divine side and a national side, right? I don't say that anymore. I don't believe that. As a matter of fact, Prophet Noble Drew Ali never said that. It's a religious organization with civic and cultural heritage, education, and engagement functions. Let me say it again. It's a religious organization with civic applications. Let's define civics first. Civics ain't got, first of all, let's say what it's not. Civics ain't got nothing to do with the law. Let me repeat that. Civics has nothing to do with the law, people. And if you believe I'm wrong, go pull up the definition of civics right now as we're talking. But while you're doing it, I'll quote it. Civics is a part of political science that deals with the rights, duties, and responsibilities of citizens. That's what civics is, people. It's a part of political science. It has nothing to do with the law. It has everything to do with how American citizens exercising the sovereign power because the people rule by way of their elected representatives. So civics deals with how you access your employees, which are what? Government. That's what civics is. Now, why do I say that it's a religious organization with civic applications? Let me tell you why. Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught this. Heaven is not a place of metes and bounds. It is not a country to be reached. It is a state of mind. He said, Allah never made a heaven for man, and he never made a hell. We are creators and make our own. What does that mean in a pragmatic way? We make heaven right here, right now, just like we've made hell for ourselves. Get it? And how do you put heaven on the ground and the physical? You find the means to change the social landscape in favor of your community. Let me repeat that. You modify the social landscape in conformity with your community's issues. That's called civics, people. So, civic activity to change the condition of our people is part of our religious obligation because we believe in making heaven wherever we are. Did that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what you're looking at, it's founded in 1913, Newark, New Jersey, at 181 Warren Street, which was Dixon's Barbershop in Newark, New Jersey. By 1916, the barbershop was too small. So they rented a second floor space above a saloon on 12th and Rutgers near downtown Newark, New Jersey. That was in 1916. Then reorganized in Chicago in 1925, incorporated as a civic organization November 29, 1926, changed into a religious organization July 20th, 1928. A little more detail on the functions of the organization. Restore national character to the quote-unquote Black population via restoration of the true old world connection. What do we mean by that? We've been socialized. We've been socialized into believing our beginning in America was as property. It's a false narrative. That's a lie. Were many of us slaves? Absolutely, of course. So I'm not negating or denying the slave trade at all. But we're going to show you proof that that narrative, that our beginnings here were as property. We're going to show you why that's false. We're going to show you it's false. We're going to give you proof of that. And then we're going to tell you why they put the false narrative on it. Okay? Second, erase the social stigma of perpetual servitude from the quote-unquote Black population. This key word is social, people. Provide socio-cultural platform to organize. Remember I mentioned the RICO thing? RICO was originally designed by the FBI to take down the Italian mafia.
Mafia, yeah.
As soon as they did that, though, they directed it at who? Drug kingpins and then gangs in the Asiatic or our community, the quote-unquote African-American community. What is the crime again, people? Organizing. That's the crime. So the Moorish Science Symbol of America provides a protected platform from which to organize. Remember we said in the beginning, this is a movement. This is not a, oh, I'm sovereign all by myself. Come on, people. Come on. There's no such thing. That's like saying, I'm sex, money, murder all by myself. That's like saying I'm rolling 60s all by myself. You sure about that? See, nationality, and we're going to get to that, is a group dynamic, people. It's not an individual dynamic. When people say, well, I got my nationality. Stop. Anybody that says that respectfully does not even understand what the word means. Lastly, collective self-determination via active civic engagement. Brother Rich, all of this sounds somewhat familiar to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why, though? I wanted to hear it from you. Why does it sound familiar to you?
Well, based on what I've heard from you and other people before, you know.
But that's not what I'm getting at. Follow me. Brother, you've organized a beautiful community.
Oh, I'll get where you're going with it.
All right.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
All right. And what comes with that community? Because a community, listen, people, a community is a unit.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, we have communities. Nah, no, we don't. And this is going to be hard. I'm sorry. But let's be honest. No, we don't. We don't have communities. You know what we got? We got open air concentration camps where we just live together. That's what we have. A community is a unit, people. For those of you that were in Atlanta a few weeks ago, come on. Everybody was saying the same thing. What were they saying? Man, this is like heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Weren't they saying that, brother?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, it was to the point where some people, it was almost kind of troubling. Like, yo, this is too good.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. No, yeah.
That's it, brother. That's what the organization, the Moorish Science Temple of America, is dedicated to building. Mm-hmm. Why, brother? Why do you think I'm not being patronizing. I'm not being overly complimentary when I say, brother, you're doing it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're doing it, bro. But now you see where I'm coming from when I say that.
Yeah.
Next slide. This is a quote authorized by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, August 24th, 1928, from the Moorish Guide newspaper, Volume 1, Number 1. Since the organization and establishment of the Moorish Sign Symbol of America in 1925, its growth has been enormous. The facts concerning the Muslim religion meet the approval of people everywhere. For one to have explained their nationality, the history of their forefathers who were the masters of the first civilization of the old world, is to give them something that fills a vacancy in their lives and gives them a courage and a hope to obtain the fullness of life as was divinely ordained by our Master Allah. This religious organization is secured and safeguarded by the very Constitution of the United States, for in reality, it makes the ordinary man and woman a better citizen, for they realize what citizenship means. Woo! It teaches loyalty to the nation and the deepest respect for law and order. Come on, Brother Sharif, man. Man, that sounds like some traitorous talk, man. We're not no citizens. That's for white people. Woo! That's what we've been socialized to believe, isn't it? See, what's the best way to defeat an adversary? Get your adversary to engage in the process of defeating themselves. Did y'all hear me? Do you realize when you believe that the Moorish movement is about separatism and separate from the United States government, that you are doing the work of the white supremacists for them?
Interesting.
Word is bond. You are doing their job for them, because the objective of racism isn't just to kill our people. No, the killings are a tweaking of the system. It's terrorism. And what is terrorism? Socio-political fueled violence. So the people that are harmed by terrorism are not the people that get killed. It's the people witnessing. It's the ones that are still alive. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Next slide.
All right.
Y'all see this individual? This individual is a quote-unquote African-American.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Stanton DePriest, American organizer, civil rights advocate, and politician, served as a representative from Illinois' 1st Congressional District from 1929 to 1935. First so-called African-American U.S. representative from outside of the southern states, and the first since the exit of North Carolina Representative George Henry White from Congress in 1901. He was the first quote-unquote African-American to be elected to Congress in the 20th century, in other words, post-Reconstruction. Why is this significant? Next slide. You see this picture?
Mm-hmm.
You see in the center, that's Prophet Noble Drew Ali up top in the center, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see the brother on the right?
That's him.
That's Oscar DePriest.
Mm-hmm.
The wording on this slide came out of the Moorish Guide newspaper. All registering. The 3,000, you'll see that number? Mm-hmm. The 3,000 Muslims of the Grand Temple and the West Side Temple are making ready to register every man or woman in order to take the lead for the various candidates whom they have been instructed to vote for. Alderman Lewis B. Anderson, the Honorable George W. Blackwell, Honorable Oscar DePriest, the Honorable Robert H. Jackson, all working through the regular Republican organizations of which the Honorable Daniel M. Jackson is our matchless leader. All know the whole situation and have their own way and time to give the order to go. The Muslims will be ready. Remember what I said? The objective of racism was not to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all remember The Matrix? When Neo was getting his first initiation into what the Matrix was and he was in the loading phase? And what did Morpheus say? He said, what's the Matrix? Control. He said, the Matrix, and I'm paraphrasing, wants to turn you into this. And he held up a Duracell battery.
Mm.
Who throws away brand new, good, well-functioning batteries? You realize that Forbes Business School reported back in, I think it was 2016, that in 2016, our collective spending power in America, quote unquote black people, passed the $1 trillion mark for that year, and it has not gone down since. Do you really think now mind you that, and remember, we're 98% consumers, don't produce anything collectively, and we definitely don't benefit collectively from our spending power. You understand? The powers that be are not trying to throw that away. We're keeping this thing alive, people. See? Next slide. Oh, hold on. Stay on this slide, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You see the brother sitting on the left, on the viewer's left of Prophet Noble Drew Ali?
Mm-hmm.
That man's name is Jesse Benga. I just want people to look him up. Jesse Benga, in the first convention, told the members of the Moorish Science Symbol of America and all the guests that he was the closest man to Noble Drew Ali outside of the temple. And he considered him, even though he wasn't a member, he considered him his leader. Brother Rich, you looking up who Jesse Benga is?
I will right now. Give me a second.
Yes, sir.
All right. It says American bank owner, prominent American businessman who founded the first privately owned African-American bank in Chicago. Benga recalled coming to Chicago in the 1890s with $10 in the pocket. By 1920s, he was the bank president and a major real estate owner, unwilling to conform to de facto private real estate segregation. White real estate interests sometimes opposed him violently. After his bank failed in the Great Depression, Benga was eventually charged with embezzlement, a controversial prosecution in the African-American community. Protests and public petitions helped lead to his early release. He was granted a full pardon in 1941.
They got him up out of here because during the stock market crash of 29 and the Great Depression, he refused the orders of the European powers that be to call in the loans of his customers.
Wow.
Right. See? Next slide.
Damn.
This is deep right here. Governor Herman Talmadge. In 1946, he was the governor-elect. He had just got elected. And on the 1946 broadcast of I'm trying to remember the show. It'll come to me. But he was asked, now mind you, he was also a very openly high-ranking member of the KKK. And remember, people, this is 1946. This is the time period that the European Christian identity extreme right wants to go back to when they say make America great again. Now, I got to say this. I'm not saying that I'm pro-left and anti-right or pro-right and anti-left. We're not dealing with any of that stuff because Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't either. We'll get back to that. But in 1946, he was asked about the Negro problem. And this is what he said. The Negro was living a 150-year-old artificial history and culture from which prevented him from being qualified to demand respect and social equality from the quote-unquote white people of the United States. In other words, he just put it right out there. He just said it. We created an artificial narrative for these people, and they're following it. This same artificial culture, of course, had to be adopted by all of American society for this thing to work. If for no other reason than to maintain the psychological and social control over the quote-unquote Negro. The entirety of Americans are now suffering from the very same artificial culture. Well, anything artificial has an expiration date, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In 2024, you're seeing a sharp rise in overt racial hostility, a sharp rise in Islamophobia, and they're conflating both, whether you are professed to be Muslim or Muslim or not. You got to ask the question why, right? That's what's going on in the UK right now, where they're on the verge of a civil race war.
Wow.
You know why? Because the jig is up. White supremacy is going the way of the dinosaur. That's what's happening. We could sit on our hands and it's going the way of the dinosaur. The only problem is that if we sit on our hands, it comes down around us too. Right?
Mm.
African-American disenfranchisement is predicated, listen what I'm about to say, people. African-American disenfranchisement. And when I say disenfranchisement, I mean across the board. Social disenfranchisement, political disenfranchisement, cultural disenfranchisement, economic disenfranchisement is predicated upon this very artificial culture. This artificial culture is now a foundation of the American social system. It is a direct product of an artificial narrative. This narrative, being ideological and sociological, is intangible, but it causes real-time events to occur. Indeed, the way in which separate events in time are linked together points to the narrative that connects them. What does that mean? Most of us, because remember what I said about terrorism? Terrorism is to affect the living, not the dead. All right. Most of us do not know the difference between racism and racist acts. They're not the same. The police killing Brother Cobb Bay is not racism. That's not it. That is, if we were to attribute it to the system of racism, if we were to do that, that is individuals inside the system accessing the system to their benefit. When I do these lectures at college campuses and other places and other organizations about racism, American racism, we talk about this because, again, you're terrorized. So what's at the forefront? Your emotions. They killed their brother in cold blood. Your emotions are up front, which means you've abandoned reason. Once again, why I said what I said in the very beginning of this show. Can we please keep our minds open and accept possibly we might not have the right idea? So this is the analogy I give for people to understand racism. You're scuba diving in the ocean. Shark pulls up on you. And the shark's about to bite you. But in your defense, you say, you pointed the shark. Oh, you're horrible. You're a water breather. If the shark could talk, you know what the shark's going to say? What water? Get it? Racism isn't the shark biting your leg off. Racism is the water you're both in. It's the environment. Understand? Y'all remember the incident that took place a few years ago in I think in Central Park, where the young brother was walking because his hat or his hobby was flowers. He was looking at flowers. And this one European lady was walking her dog, but she didn't have a leash on the dog. Y'all remember this? She didn't have a leash on the dog. The brother kindly said, the rules of the park are you have to have your dog on a leash. Y'all know what the European woman did. She got on the phone, called 911, and said, I'm in fear of my life. This man is attacking me. What was she doing? Exactly what I said. She was accessing a system she knows she lives in and knows she can access at any given time. So racism isn't the violence that happens on our people. Racism is the social institutionalism that protects people in the process of the violence. Make sense?
Gotcha.
The only thing that was shocking about the incident in Central Park is that she was shocked that the system didn't respond as planned. Get it? She was surprised. She called in a lynching. Or she attempted to. Next slide. The Negro problem, racism comprehensively defined. Racism is defined as a social system that provides for manifestation of the construct of racial superiority and inferiority in all areas of a society. The social environment created from the system of color, code, race, classification. What is color, code, race, classification? It's a social system that creates and maintains a what? Caste stratification of society based loosely on skin complexion. It's not based on genetics. It's based on bad sociology. So what is it? It's a lie, people. But if you believe in the lie, you will create a reality based on the lie. Public investment in the mythical system creates the reality of racism or white supremacy. Participation in the system ensures its survival and protects the components of the system. Whoa, did y'all hear that? Let me say it again. Participation in the system ensures its survival and protects the components of the system. This is going to be hard to hear, people. I'm sorry in advance. And it's not a judgment call. It's not a morality call. It just is what it is. Because there's plenty of good European people that still benefit from white supremacy and they know it. Right? So if they benefit from it and they identify by that particular social system, then what are they? White supremacists. Flat out. Again, that's not a judgment call on their character. But if you call yourself white and identify as white, you are a white supremacist. But remember what I just read, public investment, participation in the system ensures its survival and protects the components of the system. So guess what? Remember we said it's a caste system. So there's an upper echelon, which is what? Permanent upper echelon, which is what? White. There's a permanent inferior level, which is what? Black. So guess what? You call yourself white, you're a white supremacist. Or you identify as white. Or if society identifies you as white, you're a white supremacist. Because you're engaging in the system, that the caste system. If you call yourself black, or you identify as black, or society identifies you as black, right? Or let's just say this, if you identify yourself as black, you are a white supremacist. Because the purpose of the color code race classification system is to support and perpetuate white supremacy. People, it is that simple. It is that simple. It masquerades as the norm and thus protects itself as invisible to the mainstream status quo. We've seen this, we've witnessed this all the time. The secretary of my temple, in her job, they got a memo. And she's the only quote unquote African-American. She's the only brown-skinned person in her division. She was at the time. And her boss referred to her as a person of color. Well, she, knowing better, hit her boss back and said, listen, that's offensive. Don't call me that. And so the boss said, well, wait a minute. The former mayor of Rochester, New York, answers to the phrase person of color, and she's not offended by it. She goes, okay, well, that's her. General opinion is no proof of truth, for the generality of men are ignorant. So then she asks her boss, she says, let me ask you a question. So you feel that the phrase person of color is not offensive? She goes, yes, I don't believe it's offensive. She goes, okay. She goes, so would you see me as a person of color? She goes, yes. Says, okay, well, if I'm a person of color, what are you? She goes, oh, I'm just a person. And guess what? Then it hit her boss. Oh my God, that's so offensive. Yes, because you just made yourself the default human. See that? You made yourself the original man. Whoa. The privileged caste position is one of power. The power to define and redefine the categories of the caste system. What do we mean by that? Are y'all aware of the fact that in the 1830s, German Americans Irish Americans and Italian Americans were not considered white.
Right.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
So the question you need to ask yourself is, how in the world did they become white? Here's a hint. It ain't have nothing to do with genetics. Next slide. All right. Basic English comprehension, people. What you're looking at is the wording of what establishes the race classification in America via the government. This is the Office of Management and Budget for the federal government's Federal Directive number 15, Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting. Look at those definitions. What's wrong, Brother Rich? I want to ask you real quick. What's wrong with the definition of black that you see up there? What's wrong with it? You there, Brother Rich? Well, let me ask the chat. I'm in the chat right now. What's wrong with that definition of black people? What's wrong with it? Here's what's wrong with it, people. We learned in grade school. We learned in grade school that you cannot use the word you're defining in the definition. So that definition is a non-definition. I saw somebody in the chat that said it's not our personal definition. I get it. But your personal definition and my personal definition does not and cannot impact upon society. Remember, we are in a movement, people. This is a movement. It's not just what I think it is in my shower. Project Awaken X, I agree 100%. Nor is white. Let's look at the definition of white, according to the federal government. White, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Correct, Adrian Taylor Scott. Correct. Correct. Brother Rich, are you there? Brother Rich must have went to the restroom. All right. While we're waiting on Brother Rich to come back, somebody in the chat throw me a question, please. Folks in here doing too much back and forth when we can ask these questions after the presentation. Yeah, this is true. That's okay. Like I said, this is a touchy subject, people. It's a touchy subject. It's a very touchy subject. Okay. Why is it so touchy, people? Because it makes us question our notions of identity. Nobody wants to admit that maybe they don't know. Do you all realize we are the only people in the history of humanity, the only people in the history of humanity who had to be taught who we were? Aaron Hunt, how does North Africa qualify? Remember I mentioned Governor Talmadge? He said that the quote unquote Negro is living a 150-year-old artificial history. Remember I said that? So the short answer, Brother Aaron Hunt, is that it doesn't qualify. If you know any immigrants from Ethiopia or from Algeria or from Tunisia or from Libya or from Egypt itself, if they immigrated to the United States, ask them what immigration and naturalization said their race was. I don't care how dark-skinned they were. They are classified by INS as white. It's a shell game, people. It's bad sociology, people. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You there, Brother Rich?
Yeah, gotcha.
It's bad sociology. That's what it is. Next slide, Brother Rich. Brother, a lot of this is very dense because I'm going to skip through a lot of this stuff. A lot of it is very dense. I want you to go. Let me see. Next slide. All right, here we go. Now we get to some good stuff because, listen, we can do that all day long as far as the race thing, but we want to talk about what the Moorish movement is dedicated to. We want to stay on that subject. What are we taught? What is the narrative we've been socialized into in terms of thinking about our origins in America? Slavery as the beginning. Where do they want to take us back to? 1916. That's where they want to take you. 1916. Jamestown, Virginia. Few slaves, right? Sold to some English settlers. Well, look at this paper, and I challenge you to Google this paper because it's easy to find and read it. Brother Rich, you see the title of the paper?
Yes.
What does it say? Just read it.
The Iberian Roots of American Racist Thought.
What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Do you know what Iberia is? A name for or word for?
What?
Spain.
Spain.
You were not taught that in school, were you? So how in the world is the foundation of racism in America coming from Spain, people? Again, remember, it's not information that's secret, it's narrative that's secret. So here's some bullet points. African slavery in America and the myth of 1619. Myth. You know why we call it a myth? Because, of course, there were people that looked just like us here in the Americas hundreds and hundreds of years before 1619 and before colonization. But here's the kicker, people, that you need to understand. We're socialized into believing the way and even how education is taught regarding world history. We're socialized into skipping over what European nation colonized America before the English. Who was it? You're looking at it with that paper. Iberia relates to who? Spain. Spain colonized the Americas over 100 years before 1619. Actually, but we're talking when? 1492, people? Why is this so important, though? Why do they want to hide the fact that Spain colonized America 400 plus years before Great Britain or England? This is the reason. Because Spain was ruled for nearly 800 years by an African socio-political power. That's why. Your forefathers and our forefathers ruled Spain and all of Europe. That's why in that passage from the Moorish Guide newspaper, it said for our people to know that our forefathers were the founders of the first Western civilization. See? This is real. Next slide.
All right.
This comes from a book called The Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. Designed for the detection and punishment of heretics, the Inquisition. What are we talking about, the Inquisition? The Spanish Inquisition. Was used as a giant pork barrel for the enrichment of Crown Church and the Inquisitors, while cheerfully eliminating dangerous radicals. Who were the radicals? Or who did they consider the radicals? The Inquisition. Those who had been taught medicine, geography, rhetoric, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and astronomy by Moorish philosophers in universities such as Cordova, whose libraries had since been destroyed. As a result, no Spaniard could write, speak, or even think without taking into consideration the fires of the Holy Office. Now, here's the kicker, people. This is a European that wrote this out of England. As a deterrent to possible opposition to the Spanish Inquisition in New Spain, 34 Negroes, including 4 women, were hanged and decapitated in Mexico City. Well, I know you got lots of questions now. What in the world do Negroes in Mexico City have to do with the Spanish Inquisition and the persecution of the Moors on the other side of the pond? Right? So here's the things that we can positively surmise. Number one, Africans were in the Americas in significant numbers to warrant concerns about opposition to the Inquisition. Number two, these Africans were intimately connected to the social upheaval in Old World Spain. I already know what some of you are thinking, so I'm going to address what you're thinking right now. Here we go. Why is this brother saying Africans when we're indigenous to this land? Here we go. Y'all are familiar with Abu Bakr II and his expeditions to America from present-day Mali, right? That took place in the 1300s, right? Yes, okay. 200 years later, in the 1500s, more Africans coming from North Africa and Europe come to the Americas, and they encounter the descendants of those that came with Abu Bakr II. Here's my question. Would they call them Native American or would they call them African? See, again, we're addressing our thinking, people. We're under a false narrative. We're under the European psychology in our way of thinking, so we tend to separate and categorize. We tend to gangbang, in other words. We think either or instead of both and. Let me say that again. We tend to think either or instead of both and. Because it takes more brain cells and more effort to think both and. But what I just gave you in terms of the historical narrative, it is both and. Those descendants of Abu Bakr's expedition are both indigenous Americans and descendants of the inhabitants of Africa. They're both people. Next slide. All right. Please, people, take a picture of this slide. If you haven't been taking pictures or screenshots of the slides before, please take pictures of this one. Many people with letters, and I'm talking about degrees in Africana studies or African American studies, cannot tell you what you see on this slide. If you ask them what was the actual origin of the African transatlantic slave trade, they couldn't really put their finger on it. But with the information on this slide, now you can. Pope Eugene IV issued an order, a papal bull, called Ilias QAC Pro Divini in 1442. That papal bull licensed a Portuguese military order called the Order of Mary and Christ to begin raids on the west coast of Africa as a continuance of the Crusades, people. Yes, the African transatlantic slave trade did not begin as commerce. It began as wartime, people. This is the missing history that Governor Talmadge was referring to. See? He granted full remission of sins to those that took part in any expeditions against the Saracens, because that's what he called them, because they said it was a new crusade against the Moors, people. And this right here blows out of the water any of that nonsense about people saying, well, the Moors caused the slave trade. All right? It started against the Moors, people, because they, all right, you see it. You see it. And there's a reference, Professor Nazir Ahmed, PhD. The Atlantic slave trade is right there for everybody to see. He says, this was the origin of the slave trade, which began with Portuguese piracy on the Moroccan coast in 1441. Now you know. Next slide. And what you just saw here agrees with Dr. Ben, when Dr. Ben, in a number of his books, blatantly stated that the Moors are the ancestors of the present-day African American. He also said that the first so-called African slaves did not come to America from Africa. They came from Spain. This is the missing link in our history that ties us into real world history, people. When you reconnect a broken wire, you don't connect one end to the center of the wire. You connect it at the point where it was broken. I'm going to fly through this, people, because it's a lot of words. Please screenshot the slide. This is hidden repressed American history, people. This slide right here obliterates the narrative that we all came here as slaves and we have no part of American citizenship. Let me give you a little bit of background about my background. Personal. I was that guy that if you took 5 cents from, because I give you the shirt off my back, but if you thought you could take 5 cents from me, I'm getting at you. It ain't the 5 cents, it's just the principle. If I know it's mine, it's mine. Understand? There's a reason why I'm saying this. In this slide, this book, and you see the reference at the bottom, it's a book called Lincoln's Philosophy of Common Sense by Edward Kemp. This is page 510 of that book. Lincoln is talking about the Dred Scott case in this book. I mean, in this passage, he's quoting Lincoln during Lincoln's inauguration address. Lincoln literally says and proves that Justice Taney's opinion, talking about the Negro, whether slave or free, could never be a citizen of the United States, is false. And then he gives the evidence. In 5 of the original 13 colonies, listen close, those 5 were New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina. In that page that you see, Lincoln said free Moors were voters and in proportion to their numbers had the same part in making the Constitution that the white people had. Come on, people. That now you see why Prophet Noble Drew Ali flies the American flag. It don't belong to Europeans.
Right. Okay. You tying it together now. Okay.
It doesn't belong to Europeans. They're a part of it, sure. But remember, the American society is a melting pot, people. And I know some of you are thinking this, and I'm going to address it. Well, American means the copper-colored people. Remember context, people. When we're talking about how a person looks, we're not talking about citizenship. We're not talking about constituency in a political community. 2 different things, people.
You know, Sharif, I just want to add this. I really believe that context should be a subject that we study in school.
I promise you.
Because the English language is so tricky that it's so easy for somebody to get fooled when somebody says one thing and thinking they're saying something completely different. So right. And that's why you started out by saying context is king. It absolutely is. And that's something that we all should get familiar with. And I said it before, and I'm glad you said it, brother. Context is definitely king. Go ahead, brother.
Brother, we have to stay, and we cannot allow, follow me, we can't allow our confirmation bias or what we want it to be to cause us to divert from context.
Yes.
Somebody in the audience said, history, you know, they said, why are we dealing, basically I'm paraphrasing, they said, why are we dealing with history? What are the solutions? The solution is in the history, people. But you got to have the right history, which gives you the right narrative. You see? Why do you think it was here's why the history is important, people. If it wasn't important, why was it necessary for them to change the history?
Right.
That's all I got to do. Next slide. Okay. Brother, we're gonna have to do a part 2. I don't want to take up a ton of time. We've already been on.
They anxious with the questions in the chat. So when I'm gonna get straight to them because they.
Yes, so this is the last slide. I'm gonna do this. I gave you another presentation as well, but we'll just do this one.
Okay.
So these are the established points of fact concerning the Moorish Science Temple of America. Number 1, it is not a separatist organization. Number 2, it is not a government or nation independent of the United States of America. It's not, people. It empowers our people in America to obtain and enjoy a full social and political recognition within American society. It places our people on equal footing with all other national groups within American society. Let me touch on that real quick. When Prophet Noble Drew Ali said in the first convention, I now declare you to be a nation within a nation. We have to accurately define that and contextualize it. We don't mean an independent nation on American soil. separate from the United States. That's not what it means, people. The quote-unquote melting pot that is America is more like a salad. If you want a salad, they don't put it in the juicer. That's not a salad. That's juice. You can't tell the tomato from the lettuce from the onion. But in a real salad, you see all those things distinctly. Get it? So German Americans are American citizens with the German old world social and cultural complexion. Their contribution to American society is their culture from the old world. You get it? Right. So the German Americans, that's a nation within a nation. The Irish American nation, you see it now? This is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was talking about. Mm-hmm. In other words, he restored our old world connection. People talk about this status thing. Yeah, correct your status, correct your status. What kind of status? Most of the time, they're talking about legal status. Let me just say this. Nationality don't got nothing to do with legal status. Read the definition in Black's Law Dictionary. It says nationality is a quality or character that arises out of the fact a person belongs to a nation or a state. You can't go to the clerk's office and file a quality or character. You have to live it, people. And living it by yourself ain't gonna cut it. That's why this is a movement. You got to G up like the gangs do. You got to G up and live it collectively. That's what it means. See what I'm saying?
Right.
It places our people on equal footing. We're not better than, we're better off. And I'm a grown man. I don't need privilege. Man, just get out my way so I can stand up straight. Mm-hmm. See? It places us on equal footing. See, black and white is a caste system. One is always higher than the other. Get it? But when you ask a so-called white person, what's your race? White? Okay, yeah, whatever. What's your nationality? Oh, I'm English on my mother's side and I'm German on my father. The conversation just changed, didn't it? See? Mm-hmm. Conversation just changed. Mm-hmm. It demands of its members to actively participate within American society and not to abandon or separate from it. Remember what I said earlier about me personally when I was coming up? Man, if it's mine, I'm getting it. You're not going to take it from me and you're not going to deny me of it. You understand? This American system is not a quote-unquote white system. White supremacy hijacked American society, people. That's why you see them going crazy now, because the jig is up. More and more and more quote-unquote white people are abandoning the label white because they're trying to dodge the retribution, people. Let me repeat that. More and more Europeans are saying, no, I'm not white, I'm Irish. No, I'm not white, I'm English. Because they're trying to dodge the bullet, metaphorically speaking. Right. That's it, brother.
All right, we're gonna get right into these questions because this is one of them shows where the chat is lit up. Yeah. Y'all got a lot of questions. I'm gonna put the brother Sharif on the full screen because it's all about these questions from y'all tonight. I'm gonna get right into it, Sharif. I want to get through a good amount, so I don't want you to spend too much time on each question.
Do you think, brother?
There's so many questions being asked. I want to get to one right away. All right. Main question is about citizenship. We all really want to know if we need to go through that process of separation from natural and straw man.
Great question. First and foremost, these terms about straw man are, listen close, people. Listen close. Remember context. So when you're talking about a particular thing, you have to contextualize it within the field of operation that it exists. The term straw man exists in the field of commercial law, people. Citizenship ain't got nothing to do with that. Citizenship is based on allegiance. That's why we say Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, nationality is free. Not just here, but all over the world. Why? Because you can't put a price tag on your blood and your allegiance. You can't. Understand? So when you start talking about nationality and citizenship, and then you start talking commercial terms, what, you trying to sell yourself? You trying to buy yourself back? You're engaged in human trafficking, people.
All right, let's get to Hold up, y'all. Give me a second. Where does the name Asiatics come from?
Great question. That term Asiatic, right, is once again, context. It's a term used in the field of sociology, ethnology, and anthropology, right? That term was appropriated in the more modern time. What I mean by the modern time, I'm talking 1800s, by European imperialists who sought to do what? Birthright steal. You're not Asiatic, you're sub-Saharan African. And that is the true Negro. The true Negro is any African that lived below the Sahara. Any African above the Sahara wasn't you Negroes. It was us. We were just dark-skinned. I just gave you the narrative, people, as to why to this day they try to say Egyptians weren't you.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say Asiatics are not you and you agree with it, you just wrote yourself out of your legacy and history. So to this in the present day, the term has been modified because of what I'm talking about, because these things are coming out more. Shout out to our sister Dana Marnici. She is a super soldier because she cracked the code on what I'm talking about right now in academia. So her book is being snatched up by scholars and researchers all over the world, because her book definitively proves that the term Asiatic relates to people that look like you and me. Excellent. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were not wrong. They took back the narrative. Remember we said, it's mine, give it back. Yes. Because I recognize that it's mine. Make sense?
Got you.
Next question.
Hold up. Shout out to Q Reeves in the chat. I see my brother Q Reeves in the chat.
Yes,
Q Reeves wants to know, what does the hat he wears represent?
It's not a hat. And respectfully, I know you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? It's a religious and cultural headdress. When we hear the name Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? What can we determine immediately? His nationality, Austrian. When we hear Jennifer Lopez, same thing. Get it? So nationality is directly related to what we call cultural heritage, people. Cultural heritage has tangible hereditaments, intangible hereditaments. Tangible, things like land, buildings, property. Get it? Statues, this type of stuff. The Fez is a tangible cultural hereditament. It's a reflection of my cultural heritage and yours too.
Got you.
This has been hidden. See, we were separated from our old world connection. This is what cut us off from the rest of the world. This is what set the tone for the fact that nobody will come for us.
So, Sharif, what do you feel, based on your answer to Q Reeves' question?
Yes.
What do you feel about the white Masons? We always see the white Masons wear the fez also.
Correct. They wear it for a different purpose, an open purpose and a hidden purpose. The open purpose is that they're a fraternal organization. We don't wear it for fraternal reasons. It's our culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't got to join a fraternity to wear it. It's mine. Remember what we said about that?
Yeah.
It's mine.
Got you.
Got it? Okay. Now, right? The hidden part is this. Fraternal organizations like Freemasons. And let's be real, people. Understand, especially your audience, dear brother.
Mm-hmm.
We presume ourselves to be woke, awakening, enlightened. If you are, you don't have, or you're in the process, you don't have the excuse of always pointing at or trying to create or stir up a boogeyman to place blame on. Understand? So let's stop with the demonizing of Freemasons. Let's start, because even if you do, and even if it was true, what next? See? Because what you're really saying is, oh, I'm powerless and somebody come save me, please. See? Yeah. So now let's stop that. Anyway, the hidden thing is remember, Prophet Noble Ali said that our forefathers were the foundation of the first Western civilization. They built their civilization on the foundation of ours. So they're wearing your culture in your face.
Mm.
And what do? Complain, or we say that's not ours, or we say, see, we don't recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has to tell us.
Right.
All right.
All right. Next one, Sharif. How is our history only told from 1400s, bro? I'm confused. We've been here.
Okay. Well, here we go. Follow my analogy, dear Rare Wolf. Right? Remember context. Who's the we that you're talking about? Follow me. Nobody, and I mean nobody, just goes to Africa. There are 54 nations on that continent. Nobody just goes down, I'm going to Africa. No, you didn't. You went to Tanzania. You went to Nigeria. You went to Cameroon. You get my point? So the whole planet of us, long before, according to science, there were even pale-skinned people on the planet. We still were divided into nations and tribes, people. See? So we have to contextualize even the we in your question. How is our history only told from the 1400s? This is why. First of all, it's not only told. Who are we talking to and what are we talking about? We're talking about a people that were cut off from their old world history. So the first thing you got to do is address the disconnect. The disconnect took place in the 1400s, in the early 1500s. That's why this segment of history is important. I'm not saying that's our only history. Of course it's not. But it's the key history. Why? Because it's what cut us off from the rest of the world when it was erased via terrorism out of our minds and hearts.
Okay. Where do the royal black British families fit into this timeline? Sanders family, etc.
Great question. Great question. Okay. I'm sure many of you are aware or familiar. If not, get them in your library. There's a set of books, 2 volumes, written by a European called David McCritchie. The names of the books are Ancient and Modern Britons. He's a pale European, but he blazed it right out. All of the original Europeans in the early medieval period look like you and me. So what happened? What happened? What about the Habsburgs and the Medicis?
Mm-hmm.
They got bleached out, people. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
In those days, especially with ruling class, it happens to this day. When there's a marriage between 2 people that belong to two different dynasties, 2 different family dynastic lines, the purpose of the marriage is to increase the power of both by unifying. The marriage ain't just because I like her and she like me. No, they're thinking bigger than that. Understand? So that's one of the ways when we were declining. Let me say this in Spain, in Europe and in Spain. We did all these great things. How did we get defeated? Here's the answer, short answer, but we have the history behind it. We defeated ourselves. You know why? We didn't fall because, and I say this all the time, we didn't fall because we lost the knowledge of ourselves, people. We knew full well who we were when we fell. You know how we fell? Remember what I asked you all to do in the beginning? Challenge yourself to be open-minded and see me as your brother, even if you don't agree with me. We stopped doing that. Look up a period in history called the Reconquista. What is the Reconquista? The Reconquista was a 500-year period in Europe, centering in Spain, where the pale Europeans fought to retake Europe from us. What we're seeing right now with the end of white supremacy and racism in America and the upheaval that's coming as a result, because they fight tooth and nail to keep it around, is 15th century Spain in reverse. But without knowing that history, you will not be able to make the connection.
Indeed.
Oh, hold on, let me finish. Those royal families now look like pale Europeans, even though on their crests and their coat of arms, they have people that look like you and me. What did they do? Birthright stole, people. There you go.
All right. Is the last name Blackmore or Blackamore related to the Moors?
Absolutely. Sure is. Sure is. They were using the term Blackamoor in America, in the American newspapers, to relate to our people in America, even during the Dred Scott case, people. It's in newspaper articles. Brother Rich, I'll send them to you. We're talking 1857. They were still referring to our people as Blackamoors in the newspapers.
Wow.
Our biggest issue in America today, people, is a social issue. Nationality is a part of what science? Sociology, not law. Sociology. How you say that, Brother Sharif? Here we go. Nationality determines political status. Doesn't it say that in Black's Law Dictionary? Well, what is political status? Your ability to change the social environment by accessing the political process. But what's that based on? National origin in America, because everybody clicks up based on what? Common ancestry, common American experience. That's why you have an Irish vote block, a German vote block, a Japanese vote block. You see?
Mm-hmm.
That's why. All right? So, nationality is a social thing. It determines political status. It doesn't determine status at law. It determines political status. Sociology trumps politics, and politics trumps the law. And that's that. Where would you rather be? Sitting at the table with the local elected officials that you're the boss of, by the way, by being a citizen. And I'm not telling you something that's theoretical. This is something that Prophet Noble Drew Ali did in history, and it's something we did in Syracuse, New York. Would you rather be at the table discussing how the laws are going to be formed before they're formed to the benefit of your community, or arguing a law after you violated or you were accused of violating in front of a magistrate after the fact? Where would you rather be? But when you think about that, think about your children if you have them. Where would you rather be? Which position is smarter?
All right.
All right.
Let's get to this next one. Brother Rich, please ask the brother what it means to be white.
Woo, of course. In our questionnaire, we say this. Ready? But now I'm going to preface it with this. First and foremost, right? What color is my fez? Somebody, what color is my fez? I got a thermos that my students bought me. See that? It says some people just need a hug around the neck until they tap out. And then there's my name, Sifu Sharif, right? What color is this mug? Come on, people. Is it the same color as my skin? You have never seen an entire race of people that were this color, have you? No. All right. When we see white, the color white, and listen, take identifying with humanity out of it. Take that out of it. We're just talking colors. When you see the word white, do you associate it with clean or dirty? Conversely, when you see the color black, do you associate it with clean or dirty? This is sociology, people, and sociology is the science of how communities and societies are automated and run. Red means what? Stop. Green means what? Go. What do you wear at a funeral? Black, according to science, means death. We're not saying that we think you all are dead. We're saying that those terms are inappropriate to identify human beings. In our questionnaire, we say, what is meant by the word white? White means purity. Purity means God, and God means ruler of the land. Whoa! Do you understand the damage you're doing yourself by calling Europeans white?
All right. Let's keep this thing moving, brother Sharif. I'm loving how
Let's
you
go.
knock these questions down. When the 10-year census comes, should we claim other American more or white?
Great question. That's a great question. And this is something that's discussed in the Moorish movement. Mm-hmm. But remember, you always want to move. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow their prophet to a destiny that's neither uncertain or unknown. That means if we're going to move, we move as a unit, not individuals, and we move together. And we move from a position of strength, not weakness. Understand? So the census is important. Many of us don't realize how important it is. And I get it, because we've been socialized into believing that we've been socialized into being disenfranchised. So it's very easy for us to believe we're not a part of the government. We're not a part of we the people. It's easy for us to believe that. I get it. It's not true, though. All right. So participating in, first of all, we want to understand how the census works and why it works. Right. A lot of our people don't participate. But guess what that means? There's federal money that is requisitioned via services, because that's the purpose of government, to provide services to the people. Well, that's based on what? Population densities in certain areas. So if you don't participate, guess what? You just denied $10,000 in services and resources per person in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm explaining is one of the reasons why the European neighborhoods look kind of good. And the hood looks, well, you know. Now, that being said, do you do it by writing in something different? We've done the research. We've talked to Office of Management and Budget. You know what they do? If you write in American Mole, you write in white. First of all, if you wrote in white, you know where your money's going? Because, listen, they're not going to use your definition. All right. See? You have to do it from a position of power. Understand? All right, cut right to the chase. All right, Brother Sharif, then how do you address it from a position of power? What is the position of power? Top down. That means the solution is, guess what, people? Legislative. And how do you change legislation? You vote. You G up, people. You G up. You come up with an agenda, and then you amass together a significant amount of mal-affected people that are ill-affected by the very thing you're trying to solve. Well, that's not hard. We all know the song Message from Melly Mel. Broken glass everywhere. Y'all know the song. It don't matter where you live. If you lived in the hood, you can relate, because we all have the same issues. Right? So this makes perfect sense for us to G up. And that G up is what? Political power. See? They're not telling you this. Kamala is not telling you this, and Trump ain't telling you this. We don't play party politics. We play issues politics. See? We don't go to politicians saying, what are you going to do for our community? That's backwards. That's coming with your head, with your hat in your hand. What you do, because votes spend like money, don't believe me? Any of you that have ever been incarcerated, what's the first thing you lose? You lose the ability to contribute to the shaping of your society to your benefit. You lose the power to vote. You understand? Okay. Yeah. So you do it from the top down. How do you do it from the top down, Brother Sharif? You change the legislation. So we don't, we're going to write in this and we get enough people, they're going to listen to us. Wrong. You get enough people that is like, wait, this whole black and white thing is a caste system operating in the open. That's what it is. And it's erroneous. It's based on bad and phony sociology, and we can prove it. And then you get enough people and you come up with an agenda, and then you put the power behind it, which is the voting power, right? A famous rapper said it like this: now your votes buy a politician, because all it takes, I'm gonna give a quick example, Brother Rich, follow me, please. In city of Syracuse, the win-loss ratio for any elected seat in the city is 500 to 1,500 votes. You can get 4 other people with yourself. Pull out your cell phone, write down 100 names each of people that you can directly influence just because it's you. Guess what you got? You in the political game now, because you now have 500 votes at your disposal, which means you can unseat any elected official in the city. And that's all they need to know. I'm not telling you something that's hypothetical. We did it. You see?
All right.
We did it. So when you walk in, who are you? I'm nobody. But I got this agenda, and I got 500 signatures saying they're going to vote this way. Whoa, what's the agenda? Because they want votes. You just bought a politician. That's how the game works. You just bought a politician. See? That's how Prophet Noble Drew Ali got the first quote unquote African American elected to Congress since Reconstruction. That's how he did it. So you do it from top down to change Federal Directive 15. So that's the answer to the question. We do it from the top down. We change the whole legislature. There's your answer.
Okay. Let's keep this thing going, family. Let's does the Gullah Geechee people of South Carolina play a role in this?
They absolutely do. Let me say something else about the Moorish sign symbol of America. Remember, people, we've been socialized into thinking either or. That's European psychology. We have to return to the thinking of our forefathers, which was inclusive. So the Moorish sign symbol of America, we have a rule, people. And I want everybody here to listen very closely to this rule. A law. Let me not call it a rule. It's called a law. Right? All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag, nor speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What is that law indicative of? The mentality of both and. The mentality of inclusiveness. We can work with anybody that's trying to uplift fallen humanity, and the people that are the lowest of the lowest is us.
Okay.
See that?
Yeah.
So I said I'd say this: the Gullah Geechee people. Yeah, if you know their history, you all look up a sister, but her name is Dr. Sultana Afroz, Afroz. She speaks about the Afro-Asiatic Islamic connection that's part of the hidden history in the Caribbean. The Maroon societies, the Geechee societies, all of them are remnants of the old world Western civilization that was run by African Muslims, and we are the descendants of those people. This is the hidden history, people.
Yeah, this is a good one, y'all. This is a good one. Let's keep this thing going. We're gonna get to a few more questions. I think for part 2, I will want the brother Sharif here with a couple of other Moorish brothers and sisters for a panel, and just try to see where all of this connects.
Right.
Because I definitely appreciate what the brother Sharif brought to the table today, and I would love to hear what some of the other brothers and sisters in the movement have to say about this as well.
Real quick, let me throw this in here.
Yes.
Please go to the next question. Going back to what happened to our brother in Dallas, Texas. Like I said, no judgment. And it's tragic that he lost his life. It's also tragic that he took a life. Right? Because that was brother too. And the bottom line is just tragic. I mean, why is it tragic? Because it's the type of thing that now is going to, and it already is doing it, it's already endangering the lives of other people. See? And it's based on a misunderstanding of what the movement is dedicated to. And that misunderstanding is getting perpetuated. Just like the color code race classification system is a misunderstanding. It's a lie. But people believe the lie and they live the lie, which means they've accepted those teachings. They've accepted the false sociology. And if you live it, come on, RP, especially those of us that are versed metaphysically, right? What is the outside world? Your unfolding perception.
All right, so the next question I'm gonna put up, I heard something similar to this, not about you, but about a critique of Temple Moors.
Yeah.
When I was in Brooklyn over years ago,
Yes.
with DVDs. So this person says, Rich, this ain't Sabir or Taj or Asir. This brother is a temple/church Moor.
Yeah.
So talk to me. And I heard it. I used to hear the term church Moor, and I used to hear the term I think radical Moor or But explain to me, why would somebody say, man, this dude, why would they refer to you as a church Moor?
That's
and
okay. I'm not. Here's the thing. First and foremost, that's all right, and I'm not offended by that in the least. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not offended by that in the least. Because in 2024 to this day, even though I do not subscribe to church doctrine, the church is still a pinnacle of the ability to organize amongst our people. And organization is the vital nerve. Now, my good brother Sabir, my good brother Taj, my good brother Rasir, I was recently, shout out to them and shout out to my brother Red Pill. We were on, me, Sabir, and Taj were on his show not too long ago. And I made this point. Both of them, because brother Red Pill asked the question, he said, yo, can I get all of you to agree? Listen close. Can I get all of you to agree to come together and work on a common cause that's going to be all inclusive? Sabir refused, flat out. He said, nah, I don't deal with groups. I just give information. I don't deal with groups. What is this thing, people? It's a movement. It's not an information buffet. It's not get some data and a pat on the backside. What are you really going to do by yourself? See? It's a movement. So I'm not mad at all about being called a temple Moor or church Moor. I'm not mad at that at all. Right? Not everybody in anybody's society has to be a scholar or a researcher. See that? You all don't got to be that. But we do have to have one common cause. We do. And guess what the one common cause demands for us to do? Give up a portion of our individuality for the benefit of the collective. Am I right, Brother Rich? Isn't that just a basic tenet of civilization? Yeah. So you can't on one end say that our forefathers and mothers were the founders of civilization and then turn around and throw eggs at the very principles of civilization.
All right. I got one other question that's a critique about the Moorish Science Temple. This question is what does the Moorish Science Temple of America have?
Why does it have a 501c3?
Yeah. That
right,
let me just say this for those who aren't looking at the screen. Okay. That puts them under, he meant to say under the authority of the Vatican and the Pope.
All right. First and foremost, don't believe that. Secondly, and I challenge anybody to look it up right now. Right? See, okay, follow me. I do this with my students. I say, show of hands, how many of you guys are against anabolic steroids? You see hands go up. I say, all right, put your hands down. Then I say this. Show of hands, how many of you can define an anabolic steroid? How many of you can define 501c3? I don't mean describe what powers or whatever. What is it? 501c3 is not an organization. It's not a type of organization either. Please look it up, people, and stop listening to other people on the internet. 501c3 is an IRS tax code. A not-for-profit organization is not automatically 501c3 eligible. Even if you are a non-for-profit, you have to apply for 501c3 status. And the Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporated is not-for-profit. Why? Because it's a religious organization. But we do not have 501c3 status because we never applied for it. I hope we end that for good.
All right, let's we hear this term. What is a dirty Moor? We hear that term often on the internet.
Here we go. Well, let's give the definition that Noble Drew Ali gave. He said, don't call your brother a nigger. Call him a dirty Moor. That's where that comes from. Here it is. You ready? Prophet Noble Drew Ali said this: the citizens of all free national governments, according to their constitution, are of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the constitution government of their their constitution of their free government are classed as undesirables and are subject to any inferior names, abuses, and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin, right, to fail to recognize the Constitution of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. So here it is. I'm wearing a red flag out of my pocket. What's that tell you? Just on sight. What does it tell you?
Your blood.
But then I see you and I'm like, oh, what's up, cuz? And I'm throwing bees down. Oh, we got a conflict, don't we? He just looks like a blood. So he's only blood in name, but not in principle. And which one is more important? Remember, nationality is a quality or character. So the question now becomes, when you see a fez or a turban, and we all fall short, we do, I do. But if you do it consistently, right? What do I mean, do what consistently? Fail to live up to the principles of what you purport to be. That's it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we getting a lot of questions asked, family. Let's keep this thing going. Somebody says, so what's your status?
Qualify the question. What kind of status? HIV status? Negative. Qualify the status, dear brother. Please do so.
Okay.
See, because this is what people aren't doing. What status are you talking about? All right. While we're waiting on him to do that.
Yeah.
According to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, nationality, remember, nationality has nothing to do with law, people. Nationality has to do with sociology. We missed it. Bro, I did. For years, I'm reading that definition in Black's Law Dictionary, and I'm reading the definition, but in my head, it's what I think it is. That's called confirmation bias. Wasn't until one day I just calmed down and go, wait a minute, political status. Political status? What is political status? I had to admit I didn't know.
All right. So Chris says lawful status. What does
that mean? I already know the answer. He means what laws can apply to you and what laws don't. I know what that means. That's sovereign citizen ideology. And let me go back to that real quick. We conversed in those days in the early 90s with European leaders of the sovereign citizen movement. We had to get information from them. We had to lie and say that we were Christians just to get info. You hear me? They told me all of their tactics and ideology, including this lawful status thing, is because they were waging war against the government. Let me be very clear. The objective, in other words, the framework of those tactics, the objective of those tactics, they are designed to wage war on the government. You think law enforcement doesn't know that? You think the court system doesn't know that? They knew that about sovereign citizens long before the complexion of sovereign citizens changed in their eyes. Now you know what I mean. Listen, law enforcement, when they train on how to deal with sovereign citizens, they play a particular video. And this video was a traffic stop on the highway by a state trooper. Stops a man and his son. And it went from 0 to, oh my God, just like that. Everything was cool. Next thing you know, the son and the dad pull out AR-15s and boom, the sheriff. I mean, the state troopers. And this is what they say, people. They say, you can have, let's take the hood in the streets. You have the most hardened criminal, straight murderer. But guess what? He knows what he's doing is wrong. He's just doing it. But he knows it's wrong. Guess what that means to them? He could be reformed. We lock him up. The sovereign citizens, they 100% believe in what they believe in. No reforming them. So when you think you've encountered one of these guys, it's SOS. Shoot on sight. So if you're running around on the internet talking lawful status, talking I don't pay taxes, I don't have a driver's license, I'm sovereign, I'm not a citizen, and ... Remember what I said about Operation Red Bandana in the 90s? Shout out to my brother Amari Daniel Bey, a Moorish American who is formerly, he's retired now. He was formerly federal police for FEMA. He told me out of his own mouth, man, they building cases as we speak on Facebook and Instagram. All you got to do is be talking this stuff on the internet.
Indeed.
Now think about that.
Shout out to DJ Supreme. I see you, my brother. Let me ask this question next.
Salute to DJ Supreme. That's my guy.
He says, Islam brother Sharif, peace family. Please break down your perspective on the connection of the MSTA, MDNM, and the Washita and
Empress Vertice, Empress Tiara Vertice, Goston Hill Bay. Yes.
Yeah.
Brother, DJ Supreme. First of all, shout out to brother. Also to BXB. You know, feed to the X. Anyway, here we go. Listen. Me, and shout out to one of my good brothers that I've known since childhood. He lives in Akron, Ohio right now. He was formerly a member of Rocksteady. He's a DJ, DJs all over the world. His name is Forrest Webb. I got to shout him out. Why? Because he and I started on this route together with the Moorish thing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. When we started, we were not learning the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We were learning the teachings of another man by the name of C.M. Bey out of Cleveland, Ohio, because one of his students had a school. Guess who was at that school, DJ Supreme, learning along with us? Tiara Vertice Goston, brother. We were there with her before there was such thing as a Washita Nation. And I'm just telling the truth. She didn't know nothing about anything Moorish. It was a brother by the name of the late J. Johnson Bey that taught her. That's the truth. Now, was she and her family embroiled with the federal government in a fight over a particular parcel of land in Louisiana? Yes. But she went to Brother J. Johnson Bey and them thinking that the Moorish thing would get her help. That's why she was there. That's just the truth. I was there. This ain't something I read. This is the summer of 1991, brother. I had just finished my freshman year in college. And that's the truth. Now, back to the other thing. The NDNM, let's be real, right? I know the origin of this too. The NDNM, for those that don't know, is the Moorish Divine National Movement. Very simply, Brother DJ Supreme, it's just another name for the organization and the movement. That's it. There's this false notion that the Moorish Divine National Movement is the Moorish government. It's false. I know who started that. It's not what it is. You see? It's just another name for the movement. That's the truth. Okay? That is the truth. Now, the Moorish Science Temple of America is an organization. It's a religious organization, but we do religion different. Most people, because we have the European psychology, we do religion to adore God. We say man and Allah are one. While Allah lives, man cannot die. Heaven is not a place of meets and bounds, not a country to reach. It's a state of mind. That means we create heaven right here, right now. So we do religion different, people. We do religion to be God. Big difference.
Indeed. All right. Let's we're gonna do about 2 more questions and then we're gonna get out of here. We've been going tonight. We almost at the 2.5 hour mark, y'all. This was a good one tonight.
Listen, I appreciate all of you, even the dissenting comments and opinions. I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
We have a saying, Prophet Noble really taught us this about wisdom. If you say you have wisdom, he said, communicate it to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicate it to the wise for your own improvement. See? I appreciate it all.
Okay, this one here. This always comes up about the Moors' involvement in slavery. So this person said, many Moors sold us out. Please explain the slave trade in the Moors.
I already did that, people. If you were paying attention to the presentation, I blew that out the water. That's just not true. This is what some people, and then they conflate it. This is what some people are referring to about the Moors contributing to the slave trade. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about a battle that took place in 1591. This was the end of the Songhai Empire. Why? Because the Moroccan Empire went up in there and said, yo, that silver mine that you have, that's requisitioned us, basically, give us the silver. And before the Songhai Empire rulers could say, okay, yeah, Moroccan Empire said, forget it, we'll just come and take it anyway. And that's what happened. It's called the Battle of Tondibi in 1591. But why did the Moroccan Empire need that silver? Answer, because they had just spent a lot of money putting a foot in the backside of the Portuguese. That's why. And as we showed earlier definitively, it was the Pope authorizing the Portuguese Military Order of Marian Christ to begin raids on the west coast of Africa, and they called it a new crusade against the Moors. Make no mistake, the very beginning of the African slave trade was to take the Moorish Empire down. It wasn't us hand in hand with Europeans. We were the first targets, and the we is you, because we are descendants of those Africans. See?
All right. Let's ask this one. Was the term Moorish replaced with Indian?
In some books, that's absolutely right. Look up in Mexico. Look up a saint. His name was Santiago, Catholic saint, Santiago Matamoras. What does that name mean? Santiago, killer of Moors. And then later in history, in some history books, they changed the name Matamoras with Mata Indios to hide the history. That's the truth.
Wow. All right, listen, we're gonna do one last one before we get out of here. Somebody's asking, is it true that the Guyanian, how you say the word?
Guyanian people
double-crossed
the Moors
that were based in Haiti by helping the French buy Louisiana via the Louisiana Purchase?
Okay, listen, people. I want to start again. Remember, context, people. Context. The Moors, think about it. People, a lot of us are thinking like this, where there's Africa and then there's the Moors. Stop it. That's the exact same thing that the European does when they say, well, there's Africa and then there's Egypt. Get it? Like, stop it. So the Moors, follow me. Again, we have to put our thinking caps on, people. It's easy to not think. It's easy. It's easy to think either or because it doesn't require as many brain cells. All right. Listen. You have what we call an ethnicity. You have what we call a kingdom or city-state. You have what we call an empire. Understand these terms, people, because we're not educated on these things in the regular school system. So when we say the Moorish Empire, we're not talking about a single solid ethnic group of Africans. An empire is multi-ethnic, multinational. Understand? It's a socio-political entity that encompasses many different nations. Think about the Roman Empire. The old Roman Empire, how far did it extend? All the way across the Mediterranean, even to North Africa, and also France and Spain. See? We have no problem with that when we hear that. But somehow when it comes to us, it's like, oh, well, Moors are just this monolithic people separate from Africans. Wrong narrative, wrong perspective. And remember, during that time period, Sister Rose Majors, during that time period that you're speaking about, Ghana didn't exist. We're talking pre-colonial Africa. Most of us are only familiar with post-colonial Africa. Do you realize that those 54 nations, for the most part, didn't exist prior to 1883?
Wow.
Look up the Berlin Conference, when European powers carved up the continent. Context.
Context, yes, sir.
Context. Now, did some of our people double cross others of our people? Sure, it happened all the time. It happened long before the European was here too, though. Figure that out. See? It's real. But you make a good point, Sister Majors. I want everybody, if you get a chance, dealing with Haiti, shout out to Haiti. Y'all know the history. But I want y'all to look this up. Who was the head of the Haitian Revolution? Toussaint Louverture, right? I want you all right now to Google. There's a portrait, an oil painting commissioned of Toussaint Louverture in the Library of Congress. So type in Toussaint Louverture portrait, Library of Congress, and tell me what you see. That's all I'm going to say.
You're going to have me type this up now. You said Toussaint Louverture what?
Toussaint Louverture portrait, Library of Congress. Hold on, I'm going to do it too. I've already done it, but I'm going to do it again.
I got a picture here.
What's the picture look like? Tell me.
You got to know what, a fez?
Oh. A red fez with a black tassel. Huh? All right.
Let me put it on the screen for the family.
Do.
Let me put it on the screen for the family. Hold up now.
Please do.
Let's see. Okay.
Ha! That is an actual portrait of Toussaint Louverture, called commissioned portrait, that is in the Library of Congress.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting way to end the show. A very, very interesting way to end this show with a picture of Toussaint Louverture with a fez on. Wow. Who would have known? Who would have known it would have ended like that, y'all? Wow. This is divine. This is the meant to be divine time.
We're not that good, right? We don't plan like that.
You can't plan it that good, ladies.
We ain't that good.
Oh man, wow. Okay, all right. Well, yeah, like I said, man. Well, I mean, the people in the chat thoroughly enjoyed the show tonight.
Brother, I appreciate their patience with me.
Indeed. No problem, my brother. I appreciate the passion, and just the love you have for your movement, for our movement.
Yes, sir. It's our brother. Yeah. Thank you. And one last thing I want to say, because we hear religion, we are again inundated and immersed in European psychology. Well, right. What did religion do for us? What did it do for us coming from them? It was weaponized. Came from crusaders. That's called Christian identity.
Yeah.
Understand? It was weaponized. We don't do that. So we don't proselytize. The purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America, to quote Lawrence Fishburne, is to raise our ship, quote unquote, up to broadcast level and broadcast our signal into the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our purpose. Our purpose is to restore this hidden knowledge to our people. You don't got to join to learn it. It's our job to give it to you. What organization, and some people get mad at me about this, I don't care. What organization do Chinese have to join to be Chinese? How about that?
Indeed. Leave all your contact info. I got it on the screen, but some people aren't able to see the screen. Leave your contact info for those who want to reach out to you.
Yes, sir. You can find me SyracuseFighting.com. That's my profession. I teach martial arts and close protection, and close range combatives. You can find me on Facebook, Sharif Bey. You could find me on Instagram under Sharif Bey or Life of a Grand Sheik.
Indeed, indeed. All right. With that being said, family, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate the questions, the comments, and just us really being there and listening to this brother's presentation. He put together a well put together presentation. Like I said, I would love to do a part 2, like a panel, and we'll set that up. We'll make that happen. But other than that, my brother, keep up the great work, and I will talk to you soon, my brother.
Thank you so much, dear brother. And thank the audience as well. Thank you all for participating.
All right. Peace, brother.
Peace.